Hello everybody, BL here. This video, hopefully everyone's doing well. This video is going to be about a black woman who sued a neo-Nazi as well as the online newspaper / publication successfully. First let me shout out Sister Bree. Thank you for sending me this story. And I found a lot of good use in it, just in what I'm going to share here, as well as some other things that I think we've talked about along the way. So, appreciate you for that. But apparently, a federal judge ruled that Andrew Anglin, he is the founder of a neo-Nazi website, The Daily Stormer, and I'm one of his followers as well, must pay over $725,000 to to a victim of one of their troll storms, so cyber harassment. On April 30th of 2017, Taylor Dumpson was inaugurated. She's the first black female student government president at American University in DC area. And then the next day, somebody in a mask hung nooses all around campus. And the nooses, they held bananas, and the bananas were inscribed with different racial messages against black people. And it just took off from there. Anglin posted all kinds of racist articles, mocking her, encouraging his comrades, his followers to do the same, and to harass her on social media. He provided her name and contact information as well as links to her social media. That's the short of the story. So Miss Kristen Clarke, she's an attorney, and she heads up the organization Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, and that's this particular organization here. She believed her, and she pushed and used the resources and connections she has with this group and all of the volunteer lawyers and paid lawyers, I would guess, to get this case to court, through court, and successful. Now, a couple things that kind of stood out to me. First, the leading attorney in this is a black female, so one up. The fact that it was a black female that was harassed is something we need to know about. But it really got my attention because they actually took action. And then even more, the action was successful. Oftentimes, we will find people who are enduring some injustices and they don't speak up. And then you have those who do speak up, and instead of being supported, they are crippled, if you will, pushed back down. They're sold out by their own, either because they own that crab in a barrel mindset, because their own are so daggone brainwashed and selfish and all that other kind of good stuff that they won't support them, or because their own will take a payout from someone else to sell that first person under the bus. So I appreciate and I applaud everyone who worked on this particular case, getting the information, the documents, the court proceedings, filing briefs, whatever it was they did to get this case to where it is today, which is a successful win. Now, and you can actually go on here and find a link to the case, and it's, it's on the news, whatever you saw. It's on Newsweek as well. I have some takeaways though. Some of you may say, oh, well, he left the country, so she'll never see a dime of that money, etc., etc. Most of it's going to the attorney, so she got nothing and all of that. Well, yeah, it might be true that it was no contest. He and his people did not contest the case at all. So it was a default judgment. I still wouldn't call it an easy win because they had to get to court. And oftentimes the battle is lost before people even make it to court. His leaving the country makes it harder to collect. I did a little bit of research on the actual website itself. They take their donations by cryptocurrency, which is that much harder to track. But here's the deal. Miss Dumpson got her vindication. If she doesn't get a dime, she got her vindication. Because these people upset her life for no valid reason other than they just didn't like the color of her skin. And it's something to be oppressed to that degree. But it's something to actually be vindicated for it. Even if you don't get a dime, because oftentimes it's not about the money. Oftentimes that's all victims can ever get is the vindication, is the gavel stamp that said, yes, I believe you and I'm holding these people accountable. Whether they follow through with payment or not, it's a different ballgame. And sometimes that's what it takes for some of these people who've dealt with traumas or long-term harassments, which is the same as trauma. That's what it takes for them to get unstuck from wherever the trauma left them. So to me, it's worth it. But I'll tell you this also, it's a win for all of us. It's not just a win for her. It's not just a win for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law and all the attorneys and paralegals and staffers that worked with it. It's a win for all of us. Why is it a win for all of us? How many people who are cyber harassed because of their race? How many people are cyber harassed for going public, for whistleblowing, for speaking out about things, for speaking against things that they don't particularly care for? And that cyber harassment is part of the targeting program. And targeting, the other information out there about it, and it comes to different levels, different degrees, etc. But how many people are cyber harassed? It says, this win also says that a concerted group effort to cyber harass people does exist. It happens. The people ain't crazy. They ain't made it up. They ain't exaggerated. It does happen. And one court said, you know what? We recognize that it happened. And we recognize that it did what? It impacted your life, your health, your ability to carry out normal life, your ability to maintain your academic studies the way you were doing. So we're going to award you for that. Whether you get the money or not, again, is a different story. But the fact that a court acknowledged it and actually vindicated her for it, that's big. I tell you, that is very big. Another thing about this particular guy, the Mr. Anglin, he'd already lost another similar case where they did it to another female as well, Tanya Gersh, over in, I think, Montana. Did the same thing to her. And same situation, did not contest, default judgment. In that case, they were awarded, Miss Tanya was awarded $14 million. So, now these people are pulling in money. And they're still functioning. They're still posting as of today. So now he's hidden. He's out of the country. So he can't physically be arrested for whatever reason. If there was, if the police were going to do anything criminal. Because, cyber harassment is criminal. But obviously that's not something they're looking to do. Because they would have done it by now. The attorney. She, was quoted as saying, this is a victory. It's a victory for all of us against the Daily Stormer. Why is it a victory for all of us? It marks the first decision to ever hold that online harassment can interfere with equal rights to enjoy public accommodations. So, what it does is it just set precedent. This is a precedent-setting case. Which means how many of us may have to use this going forward? And of course, on the side, I can't help but wonder if the respondent had shown up in court and had contested, if the outcome would have been the same. But you know what? He didn't. So we can bask in where we are. But this is why it's important to stand with people as they fight cases. Their lives will never be the same. The damage is done. The trauma is there. The impact is there. Money can't ever erase that. Yet money will make things easier going forward. Money will allow them to pay for the trauma therapy or the, 3-month retreat somewhere in the middle of nature trying to regroup and kind of deal with it. Yes. But it doesn't give them back their time. It doesn't give them back the opportunities. It doesn't give them back any relationships that they may have lost or severed or strained while everything was going on. Suppose they happen to be on the brink of some major career move or some major academic move that wind up getting blown during this time. So, no, the money doesn't replace everything, but it does have an impact. It can be used in a positive way going forward. But this case is important because, like I already said, it sets precedent such that future stuff will hopefully be more deterred. It sets a precedent that you yourself or me or somebody else, somebody we know, may need to call upon in the future, especially with the rising amount of people being targeted, targeted individuals, rising amount of those coming to light. So this case can set a precedent for cyberbullying and harassment. I know I personally experienced cyber harassment, so it definitely is a light to me to know that judges are actually taking this seriously. Actually, I think a Florida police officer even acknowledged that the program, that targeting actually does exist and people are being harassed. But this win also opens the door for harassment groups to be held accountable for their actions, and that's the biggie. To hold them accountable. When these people start being held accountable for what they're doing, they're going to back off of what they're doing. A few of them bold, they'll go ahead and rise up and straightforward. They're ready to roll and they'll take the consequences. But most of them will kind of tone it down, may alter their methods of showing how they dislike her race or the person's race or whatever it is they're bullying them about or harassing them about. But they know that there will be some accountability. You can't just continue to run around inflicting emotional harm upon people. That's the same as physical harm. It's the same as physical harm, and oftentimes the emotional harm is harder to overcome than the physical. It takes much longer and has a longer negative impact in the lives of the victim. So I just wanted to shout out to that, bring you guys to that bring the awareness about this particular case, let you know that it did occur, as well as the other case, and just keep pushing along. Keep pushing along. But stand with, support. I've said this over and over again. If someone is speaking up about an injustice, you have an obligation to stand with them, to support them. If you have first-hand knowledge, you should be sitting right next to them in the courtroom if possible. Or every time they've got a meeting or they're writing briefs or whatever it is, you should be sitting right there helping them as much as you can. But if you can't, if nothing else, be the person who undergirds them. So while they're up all night long writing a brief or doing some research or doing whatever it is they've got to do, some paperwork, how about you be the one to cook a casserole and leave it sitting so that they can eat, or be the one to bring them something to eat and a fresh glass of lemonade. That goes a long way, because oftentimes when you get engrossed in cases like this, you forget to eat. You forget to stop and take a nap, all those kinds of things. So be that person to help them keep the health and the strength up while they're enduring. If it needs, hey, need an extra $100 because, I don't know, a process server has to serve this paper and I'm out of money. You don't have $100 to get them to help them serve the paper? If they don't come this far in the case, you don't have $100 to give them so the process server could serve it? Or maybe you could serve it. In some cases, process server is really just anyone over 18 that has no contact with the person they're being served. Not contact, no relationship with the person they're being, the people involved. So, there are many ways that you can help and that you could stand with. Just sitting back idly and watching it happen. And then if you get into the situation, you're going to want to pull this as case law, this precedent-setting case, to help you in your case, but you weren't willing to stand with her when she went through fighting to get it to here. Come on, guys. Come on. Be willing to make the sacrifice. She made the sacrifice. You be willing to make the sacrifice also. But kudos to Miss Clarke. Kudos to the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. And well wishes and a speedy emotional recovery for both victims, actually, Miss Dumpson as well as Miss Tanya Gersh. Hopefully you will be able to begin to unravel the baggage from this, get it unpacked, process it, put it where it needs to go, and pick right on back up with your studies or whatever it was you were doing and take off and fly from there. And then finally, hopefully they will finish doing whatever it is they're doing with cryptocurrency so they can track it and track down these people and get your monies. You all be well, and I will catch you on the next one.